Right, we are back for another installment of How to Get Away with Murder, and I'm excited because I'm actually doing it the day it comes on TV for once. And yeah, let's get into it. So Annalise is talking to her class, trying to dissect where they went wrong in the case. So I'm under the assumption that they lost Nate Senior's case when they took it back to the Supreme Court the second time. I guess it's kind of after the case was lost, even though we haven't seen that case actually take place. So everybody's trying to see where they went wrong, and not Connor, whoever the boy that got replaced last episode, I can't remember his name right now. I think it's Connor. Whatever Oliver's fiance's name is, I can't think of it right now. But he said your first mistake was replacing me as first chair, or second chair. So he still has added. He's still kind of bitter about being replaced with Gabriel, aka Maddox. I call him Maddox because I don't know why I can't say Gabriel. Yeah. And then she, gets home and she asks Frank, "Hey, how's Bonnie doing?" And he's watching TV and he's not really sure. And she's like, "You only had one job." And so Bonnie has ran away. Don't know where she's going, but she's gone. So now we see Bonnie ran away, and she ran away to Nate's house, and now she's in there looking all disheveled and dejected and all those other things. And she's essentially blaming Nate for going on the investigation to determine, what happened to the baby and who stole the baby and blah, 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 blah. So now she's blaming him for it, and there's nothing he can do to make up for it. So she has an attitude about that. All right, so Bonnie comes home while Bonnie leaves Nate's house and she goes back to where Annalise and Frank are, and they're just kind of sitting around, kind of wondering where she's at. Frank thinks she's at her boyfriend's house, and Annalise thinks she drove off a bridge because Bonnie is dramatic enough to do it. So she comes back and she's like, "I'm not gonna do anything stupid. I just went to Nate's house," and she goes to bed. All right. Then she gets a phone call from Gabriel, and he says they added another witness to the lineup, and essentially it's Nate. So the prosecution wants to know why they didn't add Nate to the lineup as a witness. All right. So at the retrial, they are scrutinizing Nate Jr. and saying, didn't you know your dad was a drug dealer? Didn't you have a troubled relationship with him? Blah, 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 blah. And I guess when Nate Jr. and Sr. got older, Nate ended up living with his son. Nate Sr. ended up living with his son, Nate Jr. And, I guess they had a little bit of a tumultuous relationship there. And so the prosecution is trying to essentially turn Nate against his dad. All right, when Nate was 14, Nate Jr. was 14, he wrote a letter to the parole board. I guess that he was told to write, and he was supposed to write it in favor of his dad getting out early. However, he wrote, that him and his mom were fine and that things were fine while his dad was in jail, and he essentially didn't want him to get out of jail. And so they're kind of using that now in the present as, a method to kind of keep his dad in jail and not allow him to get out like all these years later. So I can see them tearing these two apart, even though they just got back in good standing. So that part's gonna suck. So essentially this episode is the outcome of the retrial and what went wrong, because they've already said that they've lost the retrial, so they're going back, tracing their steps, trying to see where they messed up and where they went wrong at. So now Nate's dad is saying, as a result of that letter, he didn't get out on parole. They sent him to the SHU. He started, acting up, disrespecting the guards, which led him to solitary, which also led to him killing the one person that he did kill while he was in jail, when he had a mental breakdown while he was in jail. So now he's saying all of that is a result of a letter that Nate wrote at 14 years old. So that has to be heavy for Nate Jr. at this point. They're still dissecting the case, and the students are trying to offer some constructive criticism, and Laurel says, "You didn't see the letter coming because you were too close to the witness." Oh, checkmate. Nasty comeback. Sassy. So Michaela and Asher are boning again. Why? Just why? Um, so that should be interesting. I guess I missed that memo at some point. This episode is also interesting because there was no foreshadowing into who died. Like they didn't give, like normally each episode they give a little bit more information about who may have died. You know, the question that hangs over the head of every episode, every season is who died at some major event. So they didn't talk about who died at the wedding this time. In the beginning, they didn't do any foreshadowing for that. So we ain't gonna get no clues. I want some clues. So Nate and Annalise are talking, and he admits, "Yeah, I lied on the stand. I actually remember writing that letter." And he goes on to say, "I remember the first time that the cops came and put his dad in handcuffs, and he was like, you know, why are they locking up my dad? He's such a good guy." And then the second, third, and fourth time that his dad, you know, ended up in handcuffs, he started to think to himself, like, you know, maybe he's not the good guy, maybe the cops are. So that kind of prompted him to becoming a police officer. So that's tough. That's psychologically that I don't even know. I don't even know what to do with that. But yeah, so that kind of skewed his view of his dad and changed the course of who he became. And he decided to become a cop based on that motivation so that he wouldn't end up like his dad. So that is probably one of the major points of contention that they've had all these years. And it didn't help that his dad was in prison the entire time. So, good person. You have to dig up information on the, I don't know the name of his job. I missed it, but whoever the doctor is that has to prove that someone is insane, they have to dig up dirt on him because they have a long list of things that they're losing at, that they lost at this far in the case, in the retrial. And, you know, on that thing they did really good at. They did a good job of discrediting him. Thanks to Asher. Asher works at the DA's office, so he was able to do some research on the doctor and kind of come up with, give Annalise some information to discredit him. But in order to give her the information, she kind of had to dish on what's going on with Bonnie a little bit. And, you know, she just kind of makes the pictures that it's something with her and her abusive dad. So that's as much information that she's given Asher. And I don't know why he keeps believing what Annalise tells him, because it's never it's never the full truth or the truth at all. But she ended up getting the information from him anyway. All right, so Annalise is asking the doctor, you know, why his independent evaluation was so different from all of the other doctors who proved the senior Nate to be insane at the time that he committed the murder. And you know, basically she just says to him that he did it because he just got a job with the governor. That's the first person listed on the class action suit, I guess, against her from the original Supreme Court ruling. And he did kind of admit, yeah, I do have a new job with them, and, you know, that has nothing to do with it and whatnot. All right, so she has been successful in painting him as a as being bribed by the governor's office to testify against Nate Sr. So the judge agrees, so that's one win compared to like 10 losses at this point in the retrial. All right, now Nate's dad is, you know, he's kind of over Nate Jr. telling him what to be on the stand, and the cross-examiner is telling him, you know, who he is and what to be, and Annalise telling him what to say. And, you know, now he just wants to be in control of his own life, and he wants to take the stand and speak directly to the jury. So I'm going to guess something went terribly wrong, which contributed to him losing the retrial. All right, so we're back, and we're still building up to the really big loss associated with Nate's dad's case. I'm gonna call him Mr. I'm gonna call him Mr. Leahy because that's their last name. So we're gonna have Nate, which is Nate Jr., and Mr. Leahy, which is Nate Sr. Because I'm tired of saying Nate Jr. and Sr. So Mr. Leahy. We're still getting into Mr. Leahy's case, and before we get to that, because he's decided he wants to take the stand, because I guess he can do a better job. I guess they did some research and found, the last 50 cases or more, well, in the most recent 50 or more insanity cases, the accused has never taken the stand. So this is going to be a challenge to try to talk him out of it and to actually win the insanity plea. So that'll be interesting. And also going through the episode, it looks like Laurel is kind of falling for Gabriel, which she falls for every damn body. Everybody of the opposite sex on the show she falls in love with. So nobody got time for that. Whatever. Moving on. And Bonnie is still being sad about the fact she found out about her son and him actually still being alive. So I mean, I guess it's something to be sad about, but Bonnie is terribly sad in every single season. So, girl, hurry up, kill somebody, find a new man, do something about it. So Mr. Leahy's on the stand and he's kind of reliving, his only coping mechanism that he had while he was in solitary confinement for a year was a picture of him and Nate, and the guards took it away and then threw him in solitary confinement for a year with no human contact of any sort for an entire year. And then the first thing to do when they let him out of solitary confinement is to put him back on the yard with hardened criminals. Mind you, he's in there for being a drug dealer, which, whatever your definition of hardened criminals are, drug dealer is not a whole card killer, serial killer in my book. So the two are not on the same level. So they take him out of solitary and they put him back on the yard with hardened criminals. And one of the stone cold killers or whatever his backstory was, comes up to him and challenges him on the yard. And this man is, Mr. Leahy is a boxer. So all he knows to go back to is to get this man up off him. Like he said, even if it wasn't the guy that he ended up killing, there was going to be somebody that was going to get the release because he had no interaction. And then his first interaction is a major confrontation. So justice system, we know this happens every day. So I could believe it. That's all I'm going to say on that. And like you said, being in the shoe, or AKA solitary confinement, being there for a year, it just kind of exaggerated his mental deficiencies that he had already had before being locked away from civilization for a year for a minor infraction. So yeah, he gets to relive this yet again on the stand to try to earn his freedom. So, it's definitely disheartening, and it's definitely based on true stories. And yeah, still sucks. I'm just wondering why they aren't bringing up like the traumatic brain injuries that boxers sustain as well. Like, why isn't that a topic in this case, since that ties into being a boxer and mental disorders and traumatic brain injuries and things such as that. I mean, they are playing the mental issue card, but the traumatic brain injury would definitely be a good selling point for the jury as well, because we know what those boxers go through as far as brain injuries are concerned. But he's doing a good job of telling his story, but he's also a black man on trial. We know how that's going to turn out. Now Bonnie called up her DA boo thing, and she's kind of telling him she's finally, I guess, to a point where she doesn't care about hiding who she really is or what happened to her anymore. So she's kind of telling him about, her life growing up and how her dad molested her and her sister since she was 5 and her sister was 6, and how her mom knew and her parents would tape the sessions in order to make money. So I'm going to assume they taped the sessions and sold them to people or something disgusting along those lines. And she said at 15 she got pregnant, I'm going to assume, by her dad. And they told her that the baby died when he was born, and she recently found out that the baby isn't dead. So I take back everything I said about Bonnie. I'm sorry, Bonnie. That's really sad. That definitely sucks. All right, and her DA boo thing, he kind of, he understands and he reassures her. So that's really good. He had a really good response, So now, I guess that brings him closer, or something along those lines. I guess yeah. All right, so we are back to Mr. Leahy's case and I think I was calling them the prosecution earlier, but I think the defense prosecution would be Annalise and the defense would be the state. I guess. I don't know. Damn, I ain't went to no law school. The defense, I think, is the right term. So the defense asked him, didn't you say you were having hallucinations at the time that the murder took place? And he goes, yes. And the defense attorney goes, well, wait, wouldn't Annalise be the defense because she's defending him? I don't fucking know. The other people, the opposing side, he goes, well, didn't you say we have hallucinations? So wouldn't it be reasonable to assume that you were having a delusion and the guy really didn't challenge you? Because according to Mr. Leahy, the guy that he ended up killing said, oh, I want to fight the boxer. So he probably challenged him fresh out of solitary confinement and in the midst of a mental breakdown. So I said all that to say there's the reasonable doubt that the jury was looking for. So that may or may not have blown Mr. Leahy's case. All right, so he's firing question after question after question at Mr. Leahy, and and then Annalise is like, he's badgering the witness, and he was like, whatever, however the conversation goes, and he was like, I remember, I'm not stupid, I'm telling you what happened, because I remember that being the worst day of my life. And he was like, if you were in the midst of a mental breakdown, why are you showing regret as if you knew what you were doing? So yet another strike against Mr. Leahy, all within a few moments. So it's not going good yet again. So now the jury is left believing that Mr. Leahy knew the difference between right and wrong at the time that he killed whoever the guy was that challenged him. So that may put a nail in that coffin. Okay, so maybe I was wrong in my assumption that they've already lost the case. So Annalise tells her class, we have 3 hours to come up with our closing arguments to potentially win this case. So, everybody's kind of giving up in the class and nobody really has an option other than Gabriel Maddox, of course. So he comes in and he's like, maybe we should move for a mistrial. So Annalise, that sounds like defeat to her. And, he's saying that's better than a guilty plea. So I don't know what she's going to do with that information. So Gabriel's solution to filing for the mistrial is to say that the opposing side lied about the charges as they were reading off the charges about Mr. Leahy in court. They said he was arrested for having crack on him, when in actuality his arrest record only said for marijuana. So they lied about the charges during the trial. So they want to go for a mistrial. So now Annalise is going to take a vote from everyone in the class to see if that is a likely option. At this point, that's their only option. And most of the class agrees on a mistrial or motioning to put in for a mistrial. 492,750 minutes. That is how long Mr. Leahy spent in a cement space the size of a parking spot. Goddamn Annalise. She painted that picture for me. Okay. That's in her closing arguments, just kind of painting the picture like, this is where this man spent a little less than a year. And there are studies that are proving that, solitary confinement definitely contributes to mental breakdowns, even in people that did not have a history of mental illness. And days later, he committed a crime that he's never committed before. So, take that into account. And so she has Gabriel kind of tape off the dimensions on the floor, and she stands in that box just to give them a physical representation of what that looks like. So that was very smart, and that was very good for her to do. Not only that, but she asks the jurors to be quiet for a minute in order to immerse themselves into the space of being in that solitary confinement space for a year. She only asked him for a minute, which is a fraction of the amount of time that he's been in there, hearing absolutely nothing. No interaction, no footsteps, no daylight, no anything. So this is a very good immersion technique in order to kind of bring them into the headspace that this guy may have been in at the time that this horrendous act was committed. And production, or the cameras, or whoever created this part of the show, literally gives us a minute in complete silence. So that was genius. That was good. So actually, the solution for a mistrial that Gabriel presented to Annalise, it was actually Connor's idea. He kind of pulled them aside and he gave it to Gabriel and said, they missed this detail. Give it to Annalise. And he was like, present it to herself. And he was like, no, she'll only listen to you. So, yeah. So he was the one that kind of figured out the loophole in this case. And, so Annalise kind of feels kind of bad about that. Now the jury is back with a decision. So I'm not very hopeful, but let's see. Let's see what this verdict is. Let's just see. I'm sitting over here like it's my daddy on trial. I'm nervous. Shit. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Sorry. The jury finds Nathan Leahy Sr. not guilty by reason of insanity, bitch. He got off. Oh, bitch. I feel like OJ won, bruh. I feel like the verdict on the OJ case, dog. I swear. All right, let me chill. Let me get myself together. I'll be right back. So he's leaving the care of the state, headed to a psychiatric facility. Okay, so sorry, I was very excited about that. So Annalise, can't really bask in the moment for very long. So they ask her, the reporters, they're like, hey, what does this mean? And she was like, this is just one out of thousands of cases. This is just, one step on hundreds and hundreds of miles of injustices in the justice system. So we got to keep going. We got more work to do. So I'm excited. These last few minutes is just getting your girl. So Nate is talking to his dad, Mr. Leahy, and he's like, I wish I could have done more to help. And he's like, what you did as much as you could. So it's okay. And he was like, I forgive you. The slate is clean, essentially. And he was like, how can I ask 12 strangers on the jury to forgive me when I can't even forgive my own son? That was slick. Boy, the writers for this show be on point. Okay, and Frank shows up at the press conference after the win, and Laurel sees him, and she's like, what? She's put two and two together, and she realizes that Gabriel lives in Wes's old apartment, and there's something going on. She can't kind of figure out what Frank knows about Gabriel, but she demands answers, as she always does with her entitled little spirit. So yeah, she gonna end up getting her head chopped off. Keep on being nosy, but we'll see. Now everybody's just celebrating. Okay, so I assumed that Asher and Michaela were boning again. However, they were planning a joint bachelor party for Connor and Oliver. Connor looks perturbed as usual, and Oliver is like, no, we can't have it this Friday because my mom's coming in to town. So yeah, whatever. I'm sick of them too, because they get on my nerves. And Oliver took it upon himself to invite Connor's mom as well. And Connor's perturbed. And Bonnie has taken it upon herself to take the DA with her to her sister Julie's apartment. So this can't be good. This cannot be good at all. It's not going to go well, because she looks very surprised to see her. And we flash to the wedding that we have not seen all episode, and nobody can still find Oliver, even though I don't think Oliver's the one that's dead, but nobody can find Oliver, and Connor's just outside wandering around looking for Oliver, and he runs into his mom and Asher getting down and dirty outside in the snow. Great. So this is gonna be great. This is a good episode. It wasn't great as far as like a lot of people didn't die. But the case that went on tonight was really good. Gave me the feels, all that good stuff. But it was great. It was really good. I enjoyed it. So we'll see what next week holds. I will talk to y'all later.